Good morning. Today is the 19th of October 2022, and this is the fourth and final segment of our anecdote of Columbus Day. One last thing about the Spanish conquistadors. Around here, they're considered the good guys. For years, they were considered the good guys. They were part of being a Yank and part of the God and Country crowd. Now they're on the outs of our community, and it's the Fidel Castro Mexicans who are part of the self-proclaimed leaders around here. Let's put another dot on the chalkboard and continue. A few years back, there was a documentary by the National Geographic Society talking about life before Columbus. On the European side, they portrayed the Europeans in a very dark fashion. They had used up all the land in Europe, and Queen Isabella and the Spaniards were considered or portrayed as greedy and self-centered and seedy. On the other side, in the Americas, it was portrayed in a very positive attitude, with plenty of national resources and plenty of room, and the people living a carefree and comfortable life. Then the cruel, vicious Spanish conquistadors came over and decimated the land and torched the land with their horses and cows and pigs and sheep, killing millions of people and taking over everything for their own self-centered interests. It came to a head for the purposes of our anecdote here with this one particular scene where the camera panned from above down, and two people. One was a Spaniard who was portrayed as a white actor, and he was a Spaniard, and then a young Indian came running out of the tent, a young Indian boy. And the young Indian boy ran up to the Spaniard. The Spaniard went down on one knee and he held out his hand. And as he did, the commentator was speaking. He was saying that it wasn't just the Spaniard with his horses and cows and pigs that conquered the indigenous people. It was when the old and new world touched that the Native American met his worst hidden enemy. And when he said that, the camera zoomed in on the hand of the Spaniard. He opened up his hand, and there was a Catholic cross. The young man looked defiant, but couldn't do anything, and he grabbed the cross and ran back into the teepee. And the Spaniard had a look on his face that was something out of a horror movie. It wasn't until a minute or so into the next scene that he mentioned that they were actually talking about smallpox. They weren't talking about smallpox at all, were they? And that's the whole point of this anecdote. It really doesn't have anything to do with Columbus at all, does it? It has to do with hustling. It has to do with people who hustle, con, manipulate, and intimidate people, who in this camp are called evil, hustling, getting a group of other people to go out and do their fighting for them. Take to the streets and tear everything down, and that's what this is all about, isn't it? Let's start to conclude this anecdote. 3 observations, please. The first observation to the indigenous people. Rule 1, if you want to be treated as an equal, it's a good idea not to show up at the camp meeting butt naked and covered in cosmetic cow dung. There are other cultures, and some of them have a lot to say, and some of them are even decent. The second observation, they used the worst of the self-proclaimed leaders of the indigenous people and the worst of their personality to attack the very last group of people on this earth with any clout that would actually go back and ask the 10-year-old what they want for their birthday. They're attacking this culture, and if they win, well, they might win. It's even true that they're attacking the white male chauvinist pig, whatever color we are, I hope, and they're standing up for among other groups, the white male that hustles, cons, and manipulates and intimidates people, who are considered just flat out the bad guys, and they're in the same camp. They're just part of the same group. The third observation is something I was looking for years. As in my school days, you would look for it, and you were simply taught to, and I've yet to see it. And that is some groups, such as an indigenous people and other groups, coming up and saying, we would like to join your gang in the playground, and this is what we have to offer. The idea of showing up and saying, this is what we have to offer, it just doesn't exist. When we talk about the 1950s around here, the 1950s United States, it's actually that part of the 1950s where in the United States we were trying to come up with our own identity, and they were doing an awfully good job of it. So when we talk about that sort of thing here, we talk about taking the good part of the 1950s, the American Yank, and adopting that and continuing and adding to that and continuing it from there. Part of that was a custom of flying the flag on holidays. They wouldn't fly the flag every day, just on the holidays. And it was a good way of placing importance on the holiday, and it was a good way of having a sense of unity, and it was a good way of stopping to remind yourself of all the things that we used to be able to take for granted. Here in this house, well, actually, here in this house, I do think the United States should be the world's government. If they're going to have a world's government, it should be the United States. We're perfect for it. This United States. And just so it said, last week here, yes, the stars and stripes were flying. Thank you.